Welcome back to 3D animation. Continuing on with character rigging, we're going to add some controllers today. And before we do that, we're going to talk about the difference between forward kinematics and inverse kinematics. So you successfully, in the last lesson, rigged up your model. You've got your skeleton on here. And an example of forward kinematics would be if I want to move this arm, but I also want to like curl the whole arm in so that all the way down to the wrist. Well, to do that, first thing I have to do is rotate my shoulder. Then I have to click on my elbow and rotate that. And then if I want to get the wrist, I've got to get on that and rotate it all the way down the chain. So you kind of start at the parent, go to the child, the next child, and then I would curl up each finger after that, right? Inverse kinematics is what I'm going to show you today, and that involves the fact that I can set it up so that all I would have to do is pull a controller at the end of the arm, and the elbow and the shoulder would go with it. And we can set constraints on kind of what directions they can rotate and all sorts of fun stuff like that. So that's what we're going to do today. I'm going to teach you about inverse kinematics. Right now, you could just move forward with forward kinematics, but it's a lot to keep track of. It's a lot to decide kind of where everything's moving. And inverse kinematics with controllers is just a way easier way to animate for the most part. So, but if you had a really simple rig and you're only keeping track of a few bones, forward kinematics could work. But inverse kinematics kind of like imitates muscles in a way, in the way ligaments and tendons work. And they set all these constraints because, you know, our arm can't rotate in 360 degrees and it can't bend backwards 180 degrees. So why would your character? Maybe Pudgy here can, but I sure can't. So anyway, we're going to start off here. So that's my brief introduction. I'll have more info on the differences between FK and IK here linked in your lesson. But make sure you have your rigging menu open, okay? So come up to your top left and switch to rigging, otherwise you're not going to see any of this. And then bring up your rigging tab. You can always get everything under skeleton for the most part as well, but sometimes it's easier just to be able to grab these icons off the rigging tab after you set up the rigging window. All right, so we're going to go ahead and use what's called the Ik Handle tool. And we're going to start with the left leg of the character. So facing us, it's on the right side, but the character's left leg, right? And I'm going to go ahead and just hide Pudgy for now, just so we can just look at the rig. All right, so I'm going to come up here. We've used the Create Joints tool, or we've gone up to Skeleton and used Create Joints tool. Now we're going to use the Create Ik handle there, or you can just access it right here. It actually looks like a little tendon between the joints. And then we'll activate this tool. So the first thing we're going to go ahead and do is we're going to start with the foot. So we're going to start down at the bottom of this chain here. Don't try to click in the center. Just click anywhere on the cage of the joint. You can see that activates it. And then we're going to click up into the hip. I guess this would be the hip of my Pudgy character here. All right, so here we go. And that should allow us now with the Ik handle, if you see, my whole leg moves with it, right? If I move this way, it moves with it, etc., etc. Compared to if I go back to my regular selection tool and I grab just this guy and move it, you'll see it just stretches the joint out. So the minute we give that Ik handle, now my leg's moving with it. So let's do it again for the character's right foot. We'll grab, I still have it active here, so I'm going to click on my first joint, and then I'm going to click on the hip joint, and you'll see there we go. We get this like little visible circle. You'll see there's an Ik handle 1 and an Ik handle tool. Let's name these. So I'm going to call this capital R foot. Actually, I'm going to do leg because it's the whole leg right now. And I'm going to say handle. And I'm going to copy that just so I have it for the left. And I'm going to go to the left leg and paste that in, and then I'll just change the R to L, capital L. All right, cool. So we now have created Ik handles. Again, if I make Pudgy visible and I grab either of these in my outliner and move them around, you're going to see it moves the leg, right? It moves them out. It's bending nicely. I don't have a very complex, if you had a more complex character with like a knee bend and things like that, you would actually see it bend more. But because mine are so close together, there's not really a lot that can happen right there. But we will get there more with the arms. You'll see the elbows bend and everything else as we move forward. All right, so we've done that for the left arm. We've done that for the right arm. Now we're gonna do this for the arms as well. So I'm gonna hide Pudgy again here. Hide them. And we're going to do this with the wrist joint and the shoulder joint, right? So I'm going to grab my Ik tool again. I'm going to click on my wrist, and then I'm going to click on my shoulder. Yay. And if I take a look at that right now and try to move it, there we go. There's the elbow moving. You can almost see like that's the tendon line going across. And now we've got that. There we go. Stretch them back out. And then we're going to come over here and do it with this one. So click on that and that shoulder. And now we've got another one as well. Whoop, I didn't have the tool active. Whoops. Let's grab the tool. There and there. Awesome. And let's name these now. So come up here. So instead of right leg, I'm going to do right arm. Copy that, and then come to this one. Whoops, I had it on the wrong side. Sorry. Let me change that. That is the right arm. This one is the left arm. And I'm going to zoom out and again show you what this looks like. So if I bring Pudgy back and I grab the left arm handle and I move it, there you can see his elbows bend in with it, right? Now it can get a little crazy. Whoa! We don't want it to do that. But otherwise, if we stay within normal limitations, we can have some fun with it, right? And that works on the right as well. So now one of the things we want to do is we want to create these things called controllers, because right now if we start moving these around, it's going to be really hard to kind of get them back to a frozen position. And it's just a lot easier to kind of get your arms and your feet to go where you want them to go with a controller object. So to start this, we're going to actually go to you can go to your curves menu up here. You can always go to create nerve primitives and bring in a circle as well, but I'd rather use the nerves panel. So I'm going to bring in a circle. We're going to start with that character's left foot again. And what we want to do is we want to make a shape that kind of fits an outline around it. Makes it really easy. So we don't always have to like click in and find a joint or a handle that's otherwise invisible. We can just click when we're animating on these controllers. So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to kind of shape this circle down a little bit so that it's within the boundaries of my foot. It's easy to click on. It's kind of got a foot shape, so I can recognize it very easily, right? And I'm going to hide Pudgy again here. All right, cool. And then we're going to turn on what's called snap to point, so that what we want to do is we want to line up this little nerve circle with the center of the bottom foot joint. So up here at the top where you have these little magnet icons, this one in the center is snap to point or snap to vertex. And so if I move this now, you'll see it just snaps right to the nearest point. So if I come around, you'll see it's in the center. Now it's not quite up. There we go. Now we're in the center that way, and then I want to make sure it's centered on the right. So just because my character it doesn't have his foot flat on the perfect surface there, that's nice and centered up, right? And so now we've got that snapped, and we're going to name this one L foot control. So I'm just going to do CNTRL. There we go. And we've got that named, and then we're going to go ahead and duplicate it. So Command D, and then we'll move this over and snap it to that foot. And I just want to double check to make sure it's snapped to center, because my model is not perfectly symmetrical. If yours are symmetrical, it just should snap right over. There we go. And now I can turn snapping back off. And this one, we're going to want to change to right, right? So change its name to right. All right, so now we've got them both named. We've got it duplicated. Last thing we're going to do is we're going to freeze transformations on both of these, and that's so that we always have kind of a zero ground to come back to in the current position. Like if I look over in my channel editor over here right now, you can see they've all got an XYZ position. But if I go up here to modify and freeze transformations, they all go to 0. Whoop, something just happened. Oh, I had it on the wrong thing. Whoops, sorry about that. Let me click on the circle and do that. So modify, freeze transformation. That goes to 0. And then choose this one and modify and freeze transformation. Both of those are at 0 now. So their home is always going to be 0 where we start off right now. So it's really easy to be able to kind of reset the position of your model that way. Okay, it's really important that you freeze transformation on these or you're not going to be able to animate very well in the future, okay? All right, so we've got freeze transformation. Now we're going to select both the control curve and the Ik handle. So I'll start on this side. So I'm going to choose the left foot control, and then I put foot, but it should have been leg. Let me actually change that so we don't lose track. So let me change that from foot to leg. Leg. And leg. Just so everything's nice and uniform and easy when we forget this stuff in the future. All right, left leg, and then I'm going to hold down control, and I'm going to grab the left leg handle, the Ik handle there. Did I get the... Yep. You know what? I have these totally reversed. They're supposed to be the other way around. So bear with me for a second. I got the right ones up there, but for some reason my left is on the left, and now my right... Did I get... Oh, you know what? I just got turned around. I think I got turned around this way. Let me make sure. Oh, so that's correct. That's correct orientation. Right leg handle, left leg handle. Right leg control, left leg control. Okay, we're all correct now. Yay. All right, so let's grab... That's weird. Oh, I guess I named my legs wrong. Sorry about that, everyone. So that's my right leg. And this one is my left leg. See, naming conventions are already messing up. There's my left arm, left leg, left controller, right controller. All right. Now I'll select with the control, hold down, select the controller, left leg controller, and the left leg handle. And then we're going to come up to the top and go to Constraint and go to Point. That just added connected that controller to that leg, right? Now, so we've got that first one done there. Let me go to my list of things to cover here. And yeah, then we are going to choose the joint this time. So we're still going to choose the controller, but I'm going to hide Pudgy. Let me hide him first. All right. This time we don't want to choose the Ik handle. We want to choose the controller and then hold down Command and choose the joint. Let me see if I can just click the joint first. There we go. That was easier. And then grab my Ik controller. Or I'm sorry, not my Ik handle, my controller. So see how it's like selected inside the belly button right now? It's in the pelvis. If I go all the way down, it's going to be, there we go, leg at the bottom. You want that joint, otherwise it's not going to rotate properly, okay? Now we're going to go to Constraint and go to Orient, but bring open the dialog box. Make sure that Maintain Offset is on and that this Constraint Axis is set to all. Okay? So Maintain Offset has to be on and Constraint Axis to all, and Apply and Close. And then I'm going to do the same thing over here. I'm going to choose this guy, right leg controller and right leg handle, and I'm going to go to Constraint and to Point. And then I'm going to choose the right, or actually I'll try to grab the joint first, and then the right leg controller again, Constraint, Orient, make sure Maintain Offset, and Constrain All Axes, and Apply. And now we can bring Pudgy back here. I'm going to close this window. And now we can just select our controller, and everything goes with him. Yay! And if I even want to rotate that, well, you're not seeing the rotation there, but just because I don't have much to rotate on the end of that. If you had a foot, the foot would rotate. And then I can grab the right leg controller, and I can move that around. There we go. It's starting to tilt and do some fun things. All right. So yay, we now have controllers that are a lot easier to see, select, grab, animate, do all that fun stuff, right? So now we are going to, oh, and it's always easy to reset them to 0. So again, if I grab, because we did that freeze transformation. So if I move this way over here and off to the side, and now you can see everything's off a little bit, I can always grab that controller and go back to 0. And same thing here. If I move that guy way off and it gets all rotated out of whack, I can come to my channel box and I can just select all those and hit 0 and 0 it back, and I'm back home again. So again, just easy way to bring your character back to its home position and to control it in general. So let's do this for the right arm and the left arm now, okay? All right, so I'm going to grab another curve. I'm going to bring it up this time. I'm going to bring it out to the wrist area. I'm going to rotate it So I'll do that like negative 90. There we go. And now I'm going to scale this down, way down. The shape doesn't really matter as long as it makes sense to you. Some people really customize these shapes a lot. For me, I just want it easy to select and grab, so I'm just going to keep it simple. And then I'm going to want to snap this guy to my wrist joint, right? So I'm going to turn on my magnetic kind of snap to vertex thing again, and I'm going to zoom in on it. There we go. And I'm going to make sure it's vertically snapped as well. There we go. And just make sure. Whoop, I went a little wonky with that one, but let me undo that. I think I was in the center anyway. No, I'm definitely not. There we go. Now I've got it snapped. Centered, centered, centered right on that wrist joint. Okay, cool. And let's go ahead and duplicate that guy. And let's send that all the way out to that wrist joint. Make sure that's nice and centered. I know my wrists are symmetrical, so I didn't do anything with that, so I'm going to leave that there, right? All right, cool. And now we're going to do it all over again, but let's rename these. So left arm controller. And we'll grab that. And then right arm controller. All right, cool. Now remember, we're going to grab the right arm controller, I'm sorry, the left arm controller, and then the left arm handle. And we're going to go to Constraint and Point. And then we're going to select the joint in there. And we're going to grab that and the right arm control, I'm sorry, the left arm controller. And then we're going to go to Constraint and Orient and go to the Options box, make sure Maintain Offset, Constraint Axes to All, and Apply, and close that. And if we want to test that right now, I can grab that left arm controller. Whoop, I think I might have had everything still attached. And there we go. You can see how it's rotating and having some fun with it, right? Oh, something seems a little bit off there. Let's undo that real quick and go back. All right, let's take a look again. So left arm controller. Oh, you know what it is? I didn't freeze the transformations, and I left my snap to points on, so that's why it was snapping all weird. But anyway, let's step back for a second. So let's select each of these and go to Modify, Freeze Transformation. Really important step again. Modify, Freeze Transformation. I take my snapping off, and now it'll move a whole lot better. So first case, let's grab the left arm control and the left arm handle. And let's go to Constraint and Point. And then I'm going to grab the joint and then my left arm controller. And we're going to go to Constraint and Orient. And again, just make sure Maintain Offset, Constraint Axes All, and Apply. Now, when I just grab that controller, there we go, much smoother, nice rotations. Don't worry, we're still gonna tell it how to do other things, but you know, I can have a lot of fun with it and play around and get it to where I want it to go. Okay, let's go back out. I can always go back into here. Good, they're all zeroed out anyway. All right, cool. All right, let's go to this one now, the right arm controller. And we're going to go ahead and select that and the right arm handle, which they should all be nice and centered up. Yep, looks good. And then we're going to go to Constraint and Point. And then I'm going to choose the joint. Whoop. Make sure I actually get the joint. There we go. There's the joint. And hold down Control on the right arm controller. There we go. And then I'm going to go to Constraint and Orient again. And just double check Maintain Offset, Constraint Axes All. And Apply. And close. And now there's my right arm controller, bending nicely, bringing in on the right arm. All right. Excellent. So we're going to do a little bit more now. I'm going to go ahead and save. And now we're going to work on the spine. So we're going to come down and we're going to work on adding a controller right about at the pelvis level right here, okay? So let's go ahead and create an Ik, but this time we're going to do a slightly different controller. We're going to do what's called a Ik Spline Handle. So if I go back to rigging here, there's this guy here. But if you go up to skeleton and come down, you'll see there's a Create Ik Spline Handle just below Create Ik Handle. And so I'm going to go ahead and click on, first thing we're going to do is click on the center of the pelvis, and then we're going to go to the center of the shoulders. So I'm going to click on that guy first, and then I'm going to come up and click on, oh, I guess I didn't get it. Let me try that again. Click on pelvis. Oh shoot, I don't know why I'm not getting that. Let me try it again. Pelvis, and you know what? Let me hide Pudgy. Sometimes these guys just get in the way. Whoop. Oh, it had to start over. Hold on a second. I'll grab that there. There first. The selected must be the same skeletal chain. I'm pretty sure I'm in the same skeletal chain. That's interesting. Let me try that again. Oh, you know what? I think it's because of the orientation of my kind of how my pelvis is broken down compared to my mid-body, spine, and back and all of that stuff. So let's see what we can do here. I think what we want to do is actually make the pelvis a child of the back. So usually if I hold down the middle button, I can drag this and drop it into there. Let's see if that does it. So now that makes it all in one big chain together. So now if I select that, that's all one big chain. If I get that one, that's still one. But then if I fold it up, it might have been just the way I kind of oriented these guys. Interesting. Well, I think I might have messed up my orientation of my spine when I laid this out. But let's see if that'll work now, okay? So I'm going to grab that. There's my one. Nope, I'm still getting an error. Well, I'm going to pause for a second and come back. Okay, I figured out what the issue was. It wasn't allowing me to do the Create Ik Spline with Handle because the kind of hierarchy and structure of my overall skeleton was off a little bit. The parent of all of them should have been my pelvis. And instead, I think I had it at like my chest point, and then the pelvis was in kind of a weird location. So you can always click, middle click, and drag. And what I did was I just brought this section here that is like the spine one belly button section. I just dragged it out and into the pelvis. Before I think I had the pelvis, so I had to drag the pelvis out of the spine one belly button and then drag the spine one belly button into the pelvis, and then that got everything all kind of fixed and in the right order. So now when I click on pelvis, that's my top kind of parent, and then I have like my left leg, my right leg, and then the spine, which goes up. And then if I unfold spine, you'll see the rest of my spine as well as my arms and legs and all of that fun stuff, right? So those are in there as well. Excellent. Yep, and that goes up. So it kind of stops there and then branches out. You can think of my neck and head as like a third arm basically heading up from there. All right, so that's all I had to do. I had to kind of reorient. Now I can make the connections that I was trying to make before. So we're going to go up to skeleton and we're going to come down to Create Ik Spline with Handle. Grab that tool, grab my pelvis joint first, and then the center joint. Now you'll see I have an Ik handle here and a curve handle, right? So we're going to go ahead and work from there. So We're going to name this spine. So first of all, click on Ik Handle and name this Spline Handle. And then I'm going to name, you'll see it comes with this curve object, and this is kind of almost like a little built-in controller, sort of. But we're going to call this spine curve. Excuse me. And then we're going to go ahead and move this spine curve so it's centered up right where the spine joint is. So to do that, I'm going to hit D on my keyboard here, letter D, and that'll allow me to move this up and snap it into place. Remember, I turned on my magnet snapping to do that. And I just want to make sure I have it front to back as well. So there we go. And then I can hit D and turn off moving its center axis. So now my spine curve and everything is centered. If I want to right now, I could actually move that around. Oh, let me turn off magnet or snap to vertex. And you can see I get a little shimmy going with my, everything's moving with it, right? Because it's from that center spine, that main parent node. So everything's kind of moving with it, which is nice. All right. So we've got that all in place. We've got the spine. We've got the spine curve. We've centered it up on the spine's joint. Now we're going to create a controller for that curve and for the hip. All right, so let's go to polymodeling here and bring in a circle and bring it up. And again, I want to get this centered on it, so I'm going to turn my snapping to vertex on. Let's snap up and over. And sorry, I got to kind of rotate to see and make sure it's, there we go, perfect. And I'm going to turn that back off again. And then I can shape this. My guy, obviously pudgy, is a little pudgy. So that actually fits pretty good. It's like a hula hoop going around him. But if I want to, first of all, let's call this controller. So spine control. And I'll go ahead and just scale this a little bit down. It's a little bit big right now, I'll admit. And I can definitely bring it in from the front a little bit more and back. There we go. That'll work. Visible, easy to click on. It's not inside my model, but we're good to go, right? All right. So now we've got our controller. We've got it shaped. And we're going to go ahead and remember, on anytime we're going to make a controller, we're going to modify freeze transformations on it so that it's all zeroed out. So always, 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 always remember to freeze transformations on that. So we're going to go ahead and select. This time, we're going to choose the curve instead of the Ik handle to connect that to the controller. So we've got the controller. We're going to choose the curve. Normally, we would have chosen the handle when we weren't using the spline-based Ik handle. So we'll go there, and then we'll go to Constraint and Point. And now, even just right there, you can see I now have my shimmy going on, and I've got it straight off of the controller instead of the curve, right? So we've got that. And then we're going to do it again. We're going to choose that and the curve. We're going to go to Constraint and Orient and open up this dialog. And this time, just make sure instead of all, you do X and Z, but no Y. And apply that and close. And this is going to kind of limit the rotations and the way that this guy can move, right? All right, so now I've got that there and that there. We're doing pretty good. All right, so now we are going to do something a little bit different. And we're going to go to Window. And we're going to go down to General Editors. And this is called the Connection Editor. And this is going to allow us to apply some other kind of constraint parameters to this controller. So we're going to go ahead and click on my spine controller, or the hip controller if you want to call it, but I'm calling it the spine controller right now. And we're going to hit this Reload Left button, and you'll see spine controller is now loaded there. And we're going to come over here, and then we're going to choose for the right side, we're going to click on the spine, Ik curve, the Ik handle, I should say. I believe that's the one I wanted. Let me just double check here, Ik. Yeah, I want the Ik handle on that and put that into Reload Right side. So on the left side, I'm going to come down and find Rotate. There it is, and I'm going to unfold it. Remember how we said X and Z but no Y? Well, here's where we're going to put the constraint on Y. So Y, we're going to come down here, and there's going to be a roll option. So we're going to make it roll. You can see that the spline handle has this roll feature, and that's how we're kind of connecting it. Instead of rotating, it's going to roll. And then we can go ahead and close. And now we've got that. You'll see there was that yellow mark there that designated that in the role of the channel editor there. And now we can go ahead and try rotating this little guy around. So we're going to come back to our spine control. And obviously, I can do this. I can move it left, right, up, down. And then I can also try a rotate. So I get a little bit different on a roll versus a rotate. And then I can twist these ways as well. All right, cool. So we've got our character. We've got the kind of orientation and restrictions that we want. He's deforming a little weird just because of how pudgy he is. We'll get to that with weight painting coming up, okay? So now we're going to do another controller, and this time for the shoulders. So I'm going to click off. I'm going to bring in another circle here. I'm going to go ahead and bring this guy up, and we're going to get it in right around the shoulders. I'm going to turn on my snapping again. I actually want to get it in the center, so I'm going to hide pudgy. Sometimes it's easier just to kind of make sure you're right where you want it to be. I think we're right on it, but let's just check. There we go. Yeah, that looks pretty good. Front to back and left to right. Let's just make sure it snaps. There we go. Okay, cool. So I'm going to turn the snapping back off again. And I'll make pudgy visible just so we can scale this down and get it at a good size that's, you know, you can still see it outside the mesh, and then go front to back on that. Sometimes people do some things where you can, like, you know, check the individual control vertexes and stuff. Actually, let me do that. Let me hide pudgy. So if I wanted to, I could come on this guy. I believe, I'm not sure where they are. Control vertexes. There we go. I could grab that one and move those down a little bit just so they're like kind of like below the armpits. Again, easier to grab them. You can shape these however you want. I could put them above or below. And then I believe if I bring pudgy back, whoop, let me undo that. Bring pudgy back. Yeah, there we go. Now I can grab him under his armpits easy enough, right? Okay, cool. So now I have my next one. So we'll call this shoulder controller. There we go. And now, again, I'm going to go to Modify, Freeze Transformations. Now, this time, we're actually going to connect this to the same spine handle since it's all part of this spine. That was kind of the difference of doing the spine with the curve controller, the Ik Spline handle versus just the Ik handle. So now we can bring this guy in, and we're going to have two controllers on one handle, basically. So now we're going to go ahead and select this guy. He's already selected, and like I said, we've already frozen its, if we went to modify, we did the freeze transformations. So I'm going to go back to window, and I'm going to go to my general editor and my connections editor. And while it's selected shoulder controller, I'm going to reload left. So there's shoulder controller. And then I'm going to choose the spine handle and reload right. So I'm going to come back down to rotate again. I always have a hard time seeing it in the list here. Oh, there it is. And back to Y. And this time, instead of roll, we're going to do twist. Okay? And we're going to close that. And I believe that should do it. Now, if I come back to this controller here and I rotate it, there we go. I'm getting the shoulder twist going. Very nice. Doesn't really do much in those directions, but as far as this direction goes, its constraint is on that Y, right? So there's my Y axis moving. So the X and the Z doesn't do anything, you know, because we didn't let it constrain that, but we've got a nice control there of making my shoulders go back and forth like that. Awesome. All right, now last little thing we want to do, we're going to move some of these controllers into kind of a parent-child relationship so that when I twist one thing, the other thing happens. So we're going to put the chest controller inside of the hip controller. Okay, so if I put the shoulder, I'm sorry, I said chest, but I should say shoulder. And instead of hip, the spine controller. So if I middle click again, I can drag this inside of there. And now if I rotate that guy, both go with it. The shoulder goes with the hips, right? But then I can still control the hips separate. I mean the shoulder separate, because our hips can stay still. But if we're moving our hips, the shoulders are usually going to go with them, right? You can't keep your shoulder in one place, but you can keep your hip in one place while your shoulders twist, right? So we just want to have that. And then obviously we want the hands to go with the shoulders, right? The arms to go with the shoulders. So I'm going to go in here and grab my arm controller, my right and left, select both of those, and middle click, drag those down into the shoulder controller. And if I unfold, now you see I have all of that. So if I get my shoulder and I twist that, the arms go with it, because you can't twist your shoulders without your arms going with it, right? And again, if I come to my hips or spine controller, all that goes with it as well. All right, fun stuff with controllers and hierarchies and all sorts of different things here. I know rigging can be complicated. I've put step by step everything that I did in here, other than that little fix with the kind of structure of my internal skeleton. But this should get you in a good place where we can start to animate with these controllers soon. Next thing we'll move into skin weight painting and probably a few more controllers. But as always, thanks for tuning in, and let me know if you have any questions.